Hey everybody, it's Tragic again. I wanted to give you a bit of background about myself, where I come from, why I'm helping, and where I started formulating my ideals about how I do my business or how I work, my work ethic, where my work ethic came from. My family, they come from the island of Antigua. It's a small island. The land of 365 beaches is our claim to fame. And as a child, my mom was one of those people that worked multiple jobs to be able to support me and my dad, he was also from the island, and he um, was in the military. He was in the Navy. Now he had been back and forth as far as tours of duty, and what learned, at least a few years of my early parts of my life, I had seen a lot more with my mom as far as her work ethic, because I was living with her since they had separated. Now, living with her, what I had seen was just how hard she had to work. Now, as I got older, I moved in with my father for a while, and I learned a lot more about where I wanted to be as far as an entrepreneur or a businessman by seeing his missteps, the parts of his life where he wasn't happy. I made sure I took notice of where he wasn't happy and figured, well, if everybody keeps saying, well, you're your father's child, I was going to make sure that I was ready for my life upon leaving, but I wasn't going to fall into the same traps or missteps that he had. I was going to learn from his mistakes and stake my own claim in life. So when I graduated high school, I had no idea where I was going to go, what kind of job, if I was going to go to school or not. I was still teetering on whether I was going to go to school, and that question kind of got answered for me. And I just made a decision to go into the military, and I went in early. I went in at 17. And I joined the military. I went to the Marines, and I spent 4 years there, and I learned a lot from the Marines. Just the fact that I had graduated, and passed the trials and the initiations pretty much of being a Marine by going to boot camp, and came out of boot camp, it left me with a level of achievement that there's not a lot of people that can say that they went to the Marines and got, and went through the the 3 months that you spend there in boot camp, and then you come out of boot camp and you go into your MOS school, which is the school that teaches you your trade that you're going to be doing while you're in the Marines. And then I spent my 4 years, and I got my honorable discharge. When I got out, for me, there was nothing there. There was no, even though there was jobs and stuff, I didn't really feel like going to school after spending 4 years in the military and, doing all the training and doing all this training. When I came out, thinking automatically I was going to have a job, I didn't have one. There wasn't one waiting for me. There was, you get your last check, and they give you a handshake, they give you your release papers, and you're on your way. So for me, it was, okay, well, what the hell am I going to do now? I didn't have any skills that translated at that time. Computers were still probably, relevant in society. They were starting to become more relevant. People were going more, online more and more. This was in the 90s. They were starting to go online more. I got out in 95. So when I got out of the military, that showed me, I was like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. I wasn't too sure. So I went ahead and started looking at my life a certain way. I was already in the military, so I was like, well, I have this skill. So for those that are in the military and come out, your initial skill set, yes, you may have been training as, if you're let's say on a ship, and you're handling this nuclear powered ship and you drive that, unless you're going to drive, unless you're going to be the commander of the Carnival cruise line, you really don't have a job anymore. So what you're going to have to do is, you're already in a security capacity. So I did that. I went into security for a company called Caldor, which is now out of business. And Caldor is kind of like Target. So for those of you that never heard of Caldor, it's like Target. When I went into there, I took a security job. I got the security job. Now, the best time to be able to get a job is right around Christmas time, because that's when I went in. I went right around Christmas time when they're hiring for that Christmas rush anyway. You get in the job, it's only going to be a temp. You're only going to be there for a temporary amount of time. What I did was made sure that I was that I worked harder than anybody else there. So come spring, when they were going to start releasing people, I wanted to be the last person they would think about releasing. I did all the jobs that didn't want to be done. I did everything in my power to make sure that I locked in my position with them. And come January, February, when they started releasing people, I was not fired. I was still there. So work with what you have. First things first, always make sure you work with what you have. You have a job. Right now, you may have to get a job that you may not even like, but get it and work hard at it. And use it as a placeholder for you to be able to do other things. From that one job, I spun off learning about computers. I took the job mostly being in the receiving area. So as a security guard, I was downstairs, the job nobody wanted to do because they were like, oh, it's boring and it's too much time and nobody ever wants to be in that zone. I took that zone. And I worked that zone the late shift. I would do double shifts. And the only thing I would do is I took a book with me while I was there. I would still do my we were allowed to read while we were down there. So I would read on computers, how to build computers. And I called it my ghetto layaway plan. So rather than me buying a $2,000 or $1,000 computer, I would learn how to buy the parts of the computer and I would piece them together. And learn that it's pretty much like Lego blocks. Once you figure it out, it's kind of like piecing together a little Lego piece. You know where the wires are. They teach you everything that you need to know how to build one. So I built my own computer. I went online, got on AOL, started, and while everybody else was looking at chatting and trying to get with girls, don't get me wrong, love ladies, but there's no romance without finance. So I made sure I consistently was looking for new things online. Like, I started learning how to search, started learning how to make money online. Like, how do people make money? I learned about software. I learned how to code and program. I learned everything I could about it, because what I saw was that music, because I was I'm an MC and a producer. I started noticing that, well, I could download Eminem's first album. That was easy. There was places in AOL in their chat rooms where people were giving away free music. So I was like, well, if they're able to do this and I become successful, what does that mean for my music? They're going to do the same exact thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I have watched time and time again, the biggest people that are downloaded are also the hottest selling albums that are on the market. So there is a correlation in which being bootlegged and pirated does equal sales. And I'm saying that as an artist. So, from there, I learned about graphics. I learned about Photoshop. I learned how to design Photoshop. If you have not learned Photoshop yet, if you haven't even picked it up, it is the best asset, because even in times that have been hard for me, when I've needed some money, I've always been able to rely on going back to Photoshop and designing something. Even in this Facebook age that we're in and MySpace age, I've been able to take what I've learned in Photoshop and still be able to do author book covers, still been able to design MySpace layouts for people in charge. So